All right. All right. Welcome to another episode of Reality Roundtable. My name is Jonathan Brown. I have two distinguished guests with me today. Would you two like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, my name is Liz Swinton. I am a senior sport and entertainment management major at the University of South Carolina from Columbia, South Carolina. On campus, I've been involved in a multitude of things, mostly in student government for 3 years, in addition to being an undergraduate speaker at TEDxUSC, and now as a Forbes Under 30 scholar. And I host a podcast myself on Garner Media Group called The Patchwork Feminist.
It's pretty good content, but if I would say myself.
Appreciate
Have not missed the episode. I caught up this week.
All right.
Thank you.
And hello, everyone. I would hate to follow that up. My name is Joanne Ravenel McClam. I am a senior geography and environmental science major from Florence, South Carolina. I've also been involved on campus as an orientation leader, resident mentor, and currently NPAC co-president.
We just don't compare the lyric, do we?
No, ma'am.
I'm not that special. Please stop.
No, ma'am. Not at all. I'm not going to try.
All right, and the topic of today's episode will be how to be a better you.
All right.
Because I feel like nowadays, people hold themselves, like people that forces and also themselves hold themselves back in ways that are actually very preventable.
Mm-hmm.
And one way I feel like that people hold themselves back is like they let negative feedback about them like dictate how they choose to spend their life.
Mm-hmm.
What's one factor one of y'all think that holds people back in life?
I think for me, when I first started trying to, get involved or take leadership positions, I would take criticism, but sometimes I would be a little afraid to hear criticism because I would think like, dang, like I'm doing something wrong. So I wouldn't do like the top leadership positions, like be a president or be a vice president, so I wouldn't have to hear criticism. And that kind of held me back a lot.
I would say constantly like comparing myself to other people, and not just like. And I've noticed this more like particularly in the Black community, just because I'm a first generation college student, so I don't come from much. But like once I got to college, I'm surrounded by people who come from a lot, and so I already felt behind anyway, just because I'm first generation and nobody in my family went to college, come from a low income high school, single parent home, but. When you get here and everybody's talking about, oh yeah, I did this. Oh, you've never went here before, or you never traveled before. You don't have this, you don't own that, etc. It was just like an identity crisis, like a culture shock, and you like never feel like you're good enough. Like, why are you even doing things? And you're constantly like comparing yourself to other people, which is something that I still struggle with, but definitely I did like as a freshman in sophomore.
Wow, that's a lot. All right, well, I feel like when it does coming to comparing, yourself to other people, and other people may go through that too. I feel like social media does play a big part in it because because think about it, on social media, you're only seeing the positives of what people are doing. No one wants to post their flaws or anything. So with that being said, on social media, everybody looks perfect, but they could be going through something, but you would never know that. Because everybody posted their highlight and not the whole reel. But when it comes to taking criticism and everything, I feel like people do need to learn to take criticism. But I was reading this book called Millionaire Success Habits, and one of the 10 success habits that he talks about is not taking things personally. Because if you're taking things personally, then you tend to make emotional decisions.
Right.
And when you make emotional decisions, you tend not to think logically and make the best decision that will come out with the best outcome. And then, also when it comes to taking criticism, I feel like, some people, they just criticize, just to criticize because they're not where they want to be in life. And, they don't want to see somebody, pass them in life, so they want to bring somebody else down because, misery loves company. And my question for you two is, have y'all ever had to cut somebody off because they were so negative towards y'all?
Ladies first.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes cutting people off is a constant process. Like sometimes like you could not even just cutting people off, like cutting back on people, like certain people. I've realized that like God has a purpose for my life, and if people can't affirm the purpose he has for my life, then they don't need to be in my life. And I mean that to say, there's been a lot of situations where I've been in where people always ask questions like, like, why are you doing that? How you gonna pull that off? That doesn't make sense. Like, that's a dumb idea. And then I start second guessing myself, and when I start self-doubting myself, that's when I start making mistakes. Because half the time I know what I'm doing is right because I prayed over it, God told me to do it. And then, but it's when I start listening to other people and their negative opinions, because just because they don't understand it doesn't mean that it's not the right thing to do. So like I've had to like cut certain people out of my life or cut back on people in my life who just did not really affirm the calling that was placed over my life. And I feel like sometimes that has to happen because a lot of times some people just don't have the vision yet. Like they think too small, and a lot of times people can't see past your circumstances, so they'll be like, well, you're not rich, or you don't have this, you don't come from this background, how do you expect to get there? You can never do anything like that if you coming from this. So I think that a lot of times people can't see past your circumstances and they can't always see the vision, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean you have to be in my life.
Juwan?
I will say I had to cut plenty of people off, and I don't mind cutting them off. But for me, it's not cutting them off. I kind of just turn the volume down. So like, I want to make sure I still know they're there, because for me that kind of motivates me. Like when somebody's like, like doubting me or think like I can't complete something or do something, I want them to still be in my sight, because that motivates me when I get lazy or I get tired or I feel like myself, I can't do this. I remember the ones that were doubting me, and I see them in my vision. I just don't want to hear it, because if I hear it, I might start being negative. But I want to keep them there to kind of motivate me. But I feel like I do that a lot. But also I have a strong support system. So it's like when I cut people off, I still have everyone here to kind of keep me right. So it's kind of just having a balance. And I also like feel like I do need, I've had the people in my support system also criticizing me too. And it's not so much like how I should like cut them off. Like it's not negative, like you can't do that. It's just like you need to think about this or you need to think about this. And that's what makes you really like a leader really great. Like having this support system be honest with them. That's like the best thing I feel like I got out of some of my brothers and my mom and dad, like being honest.
And going off what Lyric said, she talks about like how she like when people like do criticize her, then she starts to overthink things. That's actually happiness habit number 3. Stop overthinking. Right. Yeah, because I feel like, think about it, like if I was overthinking it, I'd be there sitting there thinking like, man, like, what if nobody wants to listen to what I have to say on this? Like, man, what if this is lame or whatever? I would have never started this podcast. And, who knows? This could be big one day, but I would never know if I never took the chance to do it and I started overthinking. And you talked about, like, having a strong support system. I feel where you're coming from, because when it comes to my support system, I mean, my parents and my brothers, like, they'll support me in anything I do. Like, they've bought stuff from my clothing line. Like, my brother listens to my podcast and everything. So, those who don't have a support system, I'm sorry, I can't relate. But, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And also, like, when you do take criticism, you're too busy focusing on the negative outcome instead of what could be positive, which is happiness habit number 4, right? You focus on positive outcomes. But, and I feel like when you do focus on positive outcomes, you're then more driven to try to accomplish your goals. But if you're too busy focusing on the negative, it'll just put you down, and you never know what that goal could have been if you actually tried.
Right.
Whether that's actually studying harder for a test, or creating something on your own, or even shooting your shot at somebody.
All right.
Not shoot your shot.
I mean, hey, they say you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's
Amen.
right.
So you might as well just shoot. But like, what is like something y'all feel like y'all have that holds y'all back personally?
Holds me back.
Doubt.
And that's me too.
And the crazy thing is, like, now, people, I think a lot of times people think that I'm extremely successful, but like in my head, when I say I think I'm the most average person that ever lived, like I'm never satisfied with the things that I'm doing. And it's just like, I think that what people realize is that once you reach certain levels of success, you're exposed to a different environment, to different rooms. Like, for example, like the Forbes thing, like that is a big deal. But like now I'm exposed to 999 other people from other universities who are just as talented as me, if not more. Most of them are more. Like they even better. And it's like now it's almost like starting completely over as a freshman, or being like square one, because everything that makes me special here, everybody else done already did. Like TEDx makes me special here, but some of them done gave out too. TED Talks, they interned in Microsoft, Apple, Google, Disney, all these places. So it's just like, the more successful that you get, the higher that you climb, you're exposed to a whole different level. And I don't want to call it competition, because technically, these people, they're not in the same field as me. I'm not going into tech, STEM, none of that. But it's just you are exposed to what's going on in the world. Because I think a lot of times, I've never left Columbia, and so South Carolina, like being South Carolina important. But then when you are exposed to the rest of the world, and you realize that, I'm really a small fish in a big pond. And I mean, that's humbling, but it's also motivating too, because it's just like, okay, how can I work harder? Like, what can I do to set myself apart more? But I definitely doubt myself a lot.
And I feel the same way, just like how Lyric said. I'm a first generation student as well, so I think that just comes with the experience. Like we don't have nobody to kind of be like, oh, well, my mama did this, so like we're the first to do it, so it's always gonna be doubt. I feel like I doubted everything. Even coming out of high school, I had a 4.0, and I still was like, I don't think I'm getting to college. And all my counselors would be like, Joanne, like, you're getting into college, but it still was just like, I just don't know, because no grandparents, aunts, nobody has went to college, so it's kind of hard to like see the new path, even though you're forging a new path. But I feel like that doubt has gotten. I feel like I got better with it as I came to USC, because the first year I was afraid to do anything. Like I applied for one thing. I remember I was trying to be a press ambassador in my dorm and give tours, and I got denied. I got denied the second day. They didn't even give me an interview. And so I was like, see, that's why I don't need to be doing that. Like the denial kind of like sets me back, but now like my mom says like delayed. So I just like use that, and now obviously I don't apply for more things and got them. Now you still can get denials. So when you get things, don't think like, oh, there's no more denials. Like I get denied all the time. I got orientation, RM, NPC president, like all these positions. Think about how many I got denied from. So just because I got like 10 positions don't mean I got denied from maybe 15 or 16. And I feel like me saying that now, I'm almost a hypocrite now, because I was just telling somebody I was worried about applying to grad school. I guess I'll just use that. I'm still doubting about the money though, because I feel like I'm not gonna have enough money. But I feel like for me, I'm a strong Christian, so I'm always telling other people to like pray and not worry, but I still doubt and worry myself. So that's one thing I got to really work on, because I think that's one of the things that set me back like a lot. Well, it used to set me back.
And Lyric, like coming to your point where you talked about like you go into different rooms, you're like, it's kind of like a shot to you. Do you feel that your confidence diminishes when you're in those rooms, or do you like still walk with the same confidence that you do when you're in Columbia at school?
It depends on the room. What I've realized is, one thing I can say is that even though like I've never technically left Columbia, USC is a completely different Columbia than what I'm used to. So I come from like my neighborhood was basically my world. So I didn't really go outside. I thought Columbia was all black until I got here. So that was a culture shock. So I do think that, even though I've never technically left, USC is a diverse enough place and a big enough place to where I honestly feel like I'm living in a completely different world than where I grew up in. But what I'll say is that it's sometimes hard, because not only do you have that aspect of being a first generation college student, I'm an African American, and I'm an African American woman. So a lot of times in the rooms that I go in, I am the only woman, or I'm the only African American, and I'm definitely usually the only African American woman. So that's honestly sometimes a sobering thought. But it also motivates me to where I can't afford to be quiet. Because a lot of times when you're the only person in that room that looks like you or comes from that background, even though it shouldn't be your job, it is your job to advocate on behalf of people from similar backgrounds. So one thing I've been very blessed with, sometimes when I go in rooms, I'm able to, no matter how scared I am, to speak up, leave fear at the door. I might cry later. I am a big crier, particularly when I'm nervous, but before and afterwards. But during, you just have to, sometimes you got to suck it up for the greater good.
And Juwan, you talked about like how like coming out of high school, you were worried about like not getting accepted into college and stuff like that. You were worried about getting denied. Do you feel like your fear of failure has changed since you got into college? Like, do you have a sense that you're not as afraid to fail as you were back then?
Definitely. I feel like coming out of high school, I was always afraid to fail. Even like, I'll tell y'all this now, I wanted to run for like the senior class president. I backed out the whole race because I was like, I just don't want to give myself a chance to lose, even though I probably could have won. And like, so stuff like that, like running for Mr. Black USC, even though everybody think I'm gonna win, I still was like, I'm not gonna do it because I might lose. Like, I just hate failure, but I feel like it got so much better. Like going through, like I said, that denial my freshman year, or like getting denials like all through USC, or even like when I got into my RM position and like I started struggling academically and I was put on probation, I almost lost my RM job, and like I had to correct my grades, get my grades back together, go to Success Center. End up turning the whole year around and like built the best community on campus. Was recognized in 2017. But like all those experiences added up together, like it's hard for me to just be like, I feel like it's gotten so much better. I can go apply for something right now. Like last night, I was looking at my grad schools list. I had like 5, but now I got like 20 schools. So now I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay to apply for all of them. I'm not trying to dim my light for somebody else. Like I'm trying to expand, so I'm really not afraid to fail anymore because I know if I'm failing, God probably didn't want it for me in the first place, or God has something bigger for me later, like down the road. So a failure is kind of good to me, except for in the classroom.
So you talked about like not dimming your light for anybody else. Did you feel like that sometimes you were living your life for other people at times?
Mm-hmm. And I think like in high school, I always say this, but my RTC instructor told me he really wanted me and my brother to go to a smaller school, Savannah State University, which is a HBCU. And he kept preaching to me. He was like, "You're a big fish. I want you to go to a small pond and be a big fish." He was saying that so I wouldn't go to a large school. And I was like, and I kept thinking that. So even when I came to USC, I was like, this is a big pond, so I'm just going to be a little fish. I'm just a number. Like that, stuff like that kind of makes me think like, dang, like, stuff like that sticks with you, especially when there's somebody you look up to or like an instructor or a teacher. And so like coming out of that, I don't know. I just feel like I'm so much better now.
Do you feel some of that, Lyric?
Yes. Yeah. I think that in high school I was really like, I was top dog. Like I was salutatorian, National Honor Society, student council. I did everything. And I went to a high school. My graduating class was 168 people, something like that. Or probably less. And then you come to a university like this, and you really see diversity for the first time. And I remember my freshman year, I got rejections as well. I was rejected from student government freshman council, and I was rejected from orientation leaders. And I remember saying like, I don't want to do this, like, and it was just constantly, instilled in me. Because originally, like, my mom wanted me to go to upstate. Like, my guidance counselors, like, they always tried to, like, really push us towards, like, the smaller in-state HBCUs, not even the big ones. But I always knew I wanted to go to a big school. But I was always scared that I was going to get here and just, not be able to live up to the hype. And I think that those things really do affect you, and you don't even realize it. Like, even now, I think I still see myself as that 17-year-old girl who's scared of, like, everything. Scared of everything, but I've gotten a lot better. And honestly, like, at this point, I've failed as publicly as you can probably fail. So, honestly, I'm not really scared too much no more. You can't really, once you hit rock bottom, you can only go up.
And for me, I feel like, I was overwhelmed coming here my freshman year because, I'm from Rock Hill. It's like 70,000 people. And next thing you know, I get here, it's a whole bunch of people. And, the campus size is so big, and I felt so overwhelmed. Yeah. I felt like I wanted to transfer. Right. But then, I got to my sophomore year, I started to get more comfortable. I'm like, all right, this is not so bad. And then But from a confidence standpoint, I feel like I became more confident in myself during that freshman year while I was going through all that, because I didn't have to see everybody in my classes every day anymore. So I feel like I was more free to then be myself than I was in high school. I felt like more restricted because in high school you have to worry about reputation, and I feel like here people really didn't care about other people's reputation. You can just really be yourself and everything. But what's one thing y'all feel like people can do to help improve themselves and not hold themselves back?
I would say, for me, it sounds so cliche, but just living your life, I say it all the time. But I feel like living you and just being honest and just vulnerable with everybody, your life will start to open up. That's why some people just like, Juwan, you put too much on Twitter. Like, I'll tell y'all when I fail a quiz. I failed a quiz today. Like, I just feel like when I open up, it just, like, when you be yourself, like, there's nothing to be, like, you don't have to be like, oh, I got to cover this up or something like that. I feel like that's when I got all my blessings. Or, like, when I was an engineer major, I was afraid to change my major for 2 years because I was afraid of all the people back home. First of all, we first generation, so everybody know I'm at school to be an engineer. My brother at school to be a lawyer. Oh, that's all you hear. The McClam twins, oh, one a lawyer, one an engineer. Now I'm up here about to change my major. I'm up here struggling, failing classes just because I don't want to change my major when I knew I should change my major after the first year. I was like the Levites. I tell people all that. I was in the wilderness for 4 days, 40 nights. Too long. I finally decided to change my major and be myself. Chose a major I wanted to do. I love my major. Grades went up, and that's when my involvement went up. I feel like everything just started getting better. I got more scholarships and everything because I decided to be me and live my life for me and stop being fake or live my life for somebody else. So that's my biggest advice, is just do you. Want to change your major? Change your major. Want to quit your job? Quit your job. Make sure you got another job behind that. Just like do what you want to do, because when you're happy, everything else is going to start to fall into place. And you can't expect a blessing that God has your name on it if you're living for somebody else. So like I couldn't get the blessings that God had for Juwan because I wasn't even living for Juwan. If that makes sense.
And you?
I 100% agree. I think that one thing that I have a better grasp on now that I didn't have freshman, even through junior year, is to where for people to accept me, they got to get all of me.
Mm-hmm.
So like my freshman year, I was still kind of like living off my high school persona of like, I don't want to call myself ghetto, but I was a little like rough around the edges, Still, I hadn't really tapped in. I was trying to force myself to try to make USC back into high school so I can feel comfortable. So I was trying to only go to like black house parties. I wasn't really trying to engage with campus culture because I was like, oh, that's not for me. I don't need to be going to that. Like, why am I going to this event? That's corny, etc. And just pretending that I didn't like all this stuff just because I wanted to fit in and be cool. And then sophomore year, once I started to move into like spaces like student government, I'm suddenly in a whole nother environment. So I feel like I can't do the same things. Do I still need to be going to house parties and stuff like that? Can I still like hang out in that spaces? And then going into junior year between campaigning, it's just like you're split between two communities. And one community loves this version of lyric. They like this polished version of lyric. But then like this other community, like they feel like that part of you is a sellout, or this is not good enough for people. So I was going through an identity crisis of like, who am I going to be? Like, can I still be the girl who turns up at the Med concert, but can I also be the same girl that's in the boardroom? And I just had to come to the realization, you got to be all parts of you at all time. You can get all this smoke with me at any time of the day, but I can still tell you about social justice and changing the world and things like that. But for me to be comfortable with myself, I had to start giving all of myself. Some people gonna like it, some people not. I don't really care at this point. I'm grown. But I just think that I spent too much time really trying to make other people comfortable with who I am by only showing them one side. What you realize is that people who really love you, like people who really admire you, people who really respect you, they'll accept that. And not only will they accept that, they'll embrace it, and they'll be grateful to you for being vulnerable with them.
Well, with me, I feel like I just had to become more comfortable in who I was because like freshman year, like I really didn't do anything. Like I didn't go out, I didn't go to events. But sophomore year, I started to go to on-campus events, but I didn't really like go to parties. But then, like, if you knew me my sophomore year to my junior year, you saw a huge switch in me. Then, like, I started going to parties. I started speaking my mind more. I say a lot of outlandish things. Jawan will tell you, but, but no, like you said, like it's just a comfort level that I have in myself now, and I feel like more positive in myself, like. I just feel like I can just be me now, and like I live life with no shame, and I feel like you can judge me or whatever. People gonna talk anyway, so they might as well talk about the real you,
Right.
instead of the fake you that you're trying to be to impress other people. But one thing I feel like that people can do to help improve themselves is stop procrastinating. And, us being college students, that procrastination is huge
Yes.
amongst us,
Especially in my spirit.
and I feel like like that's probably my biggest problem in life because I was supposed to start this podcast 2 months earlier than what it was supposed to be. But I eventually got to it. And then like when it does come to procrastination, like I do like to set goals to try to, help try to help myself feel better about myself because when I set a goal and I achieve it, I didn't have a feeling of wow, like I achieved something, like I want to achieve more. It's like when I read books and stuff like that. Like when I read, I have a specific date like I want to get done with the book. Like the book I'm reading now, I want to get it done by the 20th of this month. It's the 18th, so I got 2 days, but I got 2 chapters left. So I'm probably gonna be done with it tomorrow or Sunday, but I'm gonna meet the date. And one of my New Year's resolutions this year was read 10 to 12 books. This is my 10th book right here.
There you go.
So, but if I have a chance to exceed that goal, I'm gonna do it because like I said, it then makes me want more. So I feel like people can like not procrastinate because, like you said, if God has a blessing for you, if you're procrastinating, then you're holding off your own blessing. Then, so you have to take charge in what you want to do in life so that you can receive the blessing on time and on the time that God wants you to receive it.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited that I was able to be here. If you want to hear more from me, my podcast is called The Patchwork Feminist, and it is available on Spotify, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Episodes come out every Wednesday.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. That was another episode of Reality Roundtable, and we'll be back next time. Okay.
All right. Thank you for inviting me.
That was a good conversation.
Mm-hmm.